Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, let's watch.
To just give up. We have two boys, so we just felt like we shouldn't give up.
I think the boys bring us stronger.
Why not be in a relationship trying to make it work instead of divorced and trying to make it work and then possibly introducing other people into that mix too? It's just a mess.
Okay, so that is worrisome, particularly for Kalani. She's saying the reason why they decided not to get divorced and the reason why they decided to stay married is because they have kids and they don't want to introduce other partners into the equation, step parents, that sort of thing. What we're not hearing is I wanted to stay married to him because I love him and I think that our relationship could improve, or I want to stay married to him because I can't imagine living my life without him, those sorts of things. That's not what we're hearing. And often, in my experience, when I hear that sort of thing from people, it indicates two things. One, that it won't provide the foundation for the conflicts that usually come in relationships. When you get into a conflict with someone, you need to have some reason to persevere. If the only reason why you're persevering is because of convenience and, well, he's the father of my kids and I don't want to date someone else, like that's not a strong enough foundation for most people. It could be for them. And there might be other reasons that they're not mentioning. The other thing that it indicates is that the relationship has really taken a toll on Kalani's feelings for Asuelu. We have to wonder if her feelings for Asuelu were ever really strong to begin with. She met him while on vacation. She became pregnant. If she hadn't become pregnant, would she have even dated him afterwards? And then when they were about to break up, they got pregnant again. And she's even said that. I didn't show that clip, but she says that she was on the fence. And we saw those scenes earlier in the previous seasons when she was like, I don't know if I want to be this person. Oh my goodness, I'm pregnant. I guess I should try harder to be with him. So every step along the way, if it weren't for the two kids, would she even be with him in the first place? I think you could make a strong speculative case that she wouldn't be with him at all. And that sometimes is a question that I will ask people is if you didn't have kids and you could just snap your fingers and the relationship would be over and everything would be okay and there wouldn't be any negative consequence, would you do it? Actually, I mean, so the broader question, and this is just an assessment question that, or exploratory question that I always ask two questions of people in Kalani's position. I say, can you live with the person the way that they are right now for the rest of your life? I get very quick answers to that question. It's usually like, no, I cannot deal with this person the way that they are right now the rest of their life. Because that question is a good exploratory question. It says, unless something drastically changes in my partner and in our relationship, no, I don't want to be in this relationship. So that's one question. And sometimes when you ask people like the rest of your life, they just think, oh my goodness, no, I don't want to deal with this the rest. Because sometimes people will say, yeah, I can deal with another day. I can deal with another week. What's another week? What's another month? But when you ask people the rest of your life, because that's the decision you're essentially making when you're saying I can deal with another month. I can deal with another month. Sometimes what you're really saying to yourself is, I'm choosing to be with this person and I'm choosing not to leave. And then when you think about, wait, for the rest of my life compressed into my head right now, no, I don't want to deal with that. The other question I will ask is if you could snap your fingers and the relationship would be over and there would be no negative consequences. No one would shame you. Your partner would be happy and they would move on with your life. No one would pressure you. There wouldn't be any negative financial fallout. The divorce would go very, very smoothly. If you could just snap your fingers and the relationship would end, would you do it? That's another good indication it's another good exploratory question. Because if the person says, yes, if I could snap my fingers, the relationship would be over, then what that says is the only reason why they're staying in is because of the barriers, whether they're real or just perceived, right? So that's another exploratory question. Now, when you ask the question to people like myself, who I have no ambivalence about being with my wife, if you asked me, can you live with her the way that she is right now for the rest of your life? I would say, yeah, gladly. And if you asked me, If I snap my fingers, I'd say, no, I wouldn't. So when you ask people who are in it to win it, those questions usually get answered in different ways. I wonder what Kalani would say.
But most of our problems come from living with Kalani and her family. I just want to have my own space, taking care of my own family, not worry and not uncomfortable to live with other people.
So, what do you think?
Just give you the money and stay here. It's a really nice house. We're gonna upgrade the backyard.
So we haven't checked in with them since the last season. The last time I had heard, she wasn't working, which makes sense. She has 2 young kids. And he was working part-time, I believe, at a restaurant, if I'm not mistaken, and he wasn't earning that much money. So this house, maybe in this part of Utah, houses are pretty cheap, particularly compared to Seattle at this point. But I don't know if they can afford this. So, but if they're looking at it, maybe they can afford it. Let's watch. Maybe he got a higher paying job.
We can make some volleyballs at the back, but... So how much this house?
So this one, the way it's built, is $362,000.
362?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, $362,000. In Seattle, that house would be $1.5 million, I'm guessing. I don't think there's a single home in Seattle that is selling for $362,000. It's depressing to think about. $362,000. That's a nice house. $362,000. Oh boy. Seattle sucks in that way, for sure.
About and consider, so we'll probably just do that in private. But I wanted to thank you for coming out and showing us the house. It's awesome.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. I'm glad you guys came in.
Now we're excited to find our own place and start this new chapter in our lives.
I have a full-time job driving, rideshare, and I get a lot of money, and we're doing really better.
Okay, so I like it when they actually let us know the specific details. He's saying that he got a full-time job, rideshare, and they're doing better. Rideshare jobs, from anecdote, from news reports, do not pay very well. In fact, they should pay more. From what I understand, the Ubers of the world will really exploit the labor and make it so that it's really hard to get ahead and actually get out of week-to-week living. But I don't know, maybe they're making it work. And
is that the best idea?
Well, it sounds crazy, but it makes sense to me because this is basically the last shot. I've done everything that I possibly could to save my marriage, and he really thinks that being in our own place will make him act differently.
Oh no, what? So I thought they were just moving out because they wanted to as a couple, and I'd been hearing things from Kalani saying that she was not fully invested in the marriage, but now she's saying that they're buying a house as a way of improving their marriage, which, could happen, because certainly a lot of people would say, like Brandon and Julia, their relationship would be a lot better if they were to move out. So it's not an unheard of idea, but I think they have more fundamental issues in the way that they continue going to therapy. And this is going to drive me crazy because so many couples, and this is my personal emotional journey with a lot of the couples on this show, is that, or just individuals like Darcy, they go to therapy and my mind is blown. I've been with Darcy, for example. I had been wanting her to go to therapy for years of the season. And I had posted on YouTube, I don't know, 40, 50, 60 reaction videos. Almost every other video, I'd be like, oh, she needs to go to therapy. She finally went to therapy, and I was so happy, and all y'all were happy for me. But then she never went back. I think she just went to one session. Now, maybe they went to more sessions. I don't know. I hear someone emailed and said that Tom's in therapy long term. I don't know. Anyway, the point is that did Kalani and Asuelu go to ongoing therapy? Because I think that they definitely could have benefited from it. As I often say with these couples, like with Mike and Natalie and other couples, the problems that Kalani and Asuelu are facing are not hard to resolve. The issues that they're facing are actually pretty simple. Now, it might take a while, but they're definitely within the normal group of couples that come into couples therapy and benefit from the couples therapy. So they went to one session, which seemed to go really well. They had homework. They did the homework, but they never showed the other sessions. The pandemic hit. Maybe they stopped going. Anyway, so I suspect they're not going anywhere. Otherwise, they would have said something, or it would have been better. I don't know. But now she's saying that Asuelu is saying that. If I'm gonna make this, if I'm gonna boil it down to what I think is happening, is Kalani and Asuelu are having a lot of fights that they've similarly had before, and Kalani is saying, I need you to be different, and Asuelu is saying, well, the only way I'm going to be different is if we move out. And Kalani's like, why? Why do we need to move out? We can't really afford to move out. And Asuelu's like, well, because if we stay here, your parents are all constantly meddling in our relationship, and it makes me so angry, and then I overreact. And so if we move out, that won't happen anymore. So it's a viable hypothesis that I'm inventing that he said, because I don't know if that's what he said, but I could see him saying something along those lines. And Kalani is believing that, saying, yeah. So buying it now, you could rent a house. That would, I'm just being financial manager at this point. This is, not my profession. But if you rented a house and it didn't work after a few months, then you could still break up and it wouldn't destroy you financially. To buy a home and to have a mortgage, it can destroy you financially if you try to get out of it, soon after, or one person is responsible for it after the divorce. Or what oftentimes happens is the divorced couple lives together because they can't afford to live apart. And that's its own disaster sometimes. Not all the time. Sometimes they can make it work, co-parenting. What did Gwyneth Paltrow called it? Conscious uncoupling, that sort of thing. It can be done amicably. Can we imagine the two of them doing it? I could see him. I could see him doing it. But anyway, I'm guessing that the sister is going to call shenanigans on that plan. Let's see what she says.
And there's just too many people in the house with too many different opinions.
I can see why you maybe think that and why maybe it could help, but at the same time it almost scares me because I do think that he doesn't appreciate how much help that our whole family does for you guys.
Yeah, that brings up a good point. When they're staying at the parents' house, the parents are there to help with the caregiving and the parenting and the housekeeping and all that stuff. And when they're living alone, they're not going to have as easily an access to that. Maybe they will, but I'm really curious what Kalani feels. Does she want to be married to Asuelu? And if there is a little bit of desire there to be married to Asuelu, what is that? I also would really hope that they're still going to couples therapy to continue working on the things that they had started in that very first session. And by the way, just to get back to that original point, I hope everyone understands that going to one therapy session is not enough. Oftentimes, for the clients that I've seen, the benefits don't happen for months, if not years. Now, there can be little benefits over time. There can often be a lot of benefit within the first 3 sessions. But in terms of really long-term benefit, and especially with couples, now some couples I will see once a month for this reason, because we need a lot of time in between the sessions to be able to have stuff to talk about. And we need it to be more long-term. So instead of having 12 sessions in 3 months, we'll have 12 sessions over the entire year. And what that does is it helps to solidify behaviors in the long term instead of just changing things right away and then they get out of therapy and then things go back to the way things were. Anyway, let's get back to watching.
I've talked to him about that too because that's a major concern of mine. But I want to give it this shot so that if he doesn't, then I could say, look, I tried this, I tried this, I tried this.
Yeah, but then you have a whole ass house together.
Yeah, exactly. Why not rent? You could absolutely rent a house, maybe even save some money in the short term and experiment in that way. Yeah. Anyway.
He's saying, and I know it's kind of crazy to buy a house to fix my marriage. I think that me and Asuelu have a lot of issues that need to be addressed. And I think a house can help and him having his own space can help, but I don't think it's going to fix everything. And I love Asuelu and I don't really want to break apart my family without saying that I tried everything I could try.
Okay, so she says, I know that thinking that buying a house would solve a marriage is not right-headed. She is admitting that. But then she proceeds to essentially say, that's what I'm doing. And she said this before going to therapy. She's like, essentially what she's saying is, before I divorce him, before I leave him, I want to be able to say to my kids and to everyone else and myself that I tried everything I could. I desperately went to therapy for one session, maybe more than that. I desperately bought a house as this possible solution. And this is beginning to make me wonder. So I never talked about this, but the dynamic between, or maybe I did briefly, but Kalani, her relationship with her sister and her parents, it seemed to be that Kalani seemed to be a little bit on the dependent side, meaning that she, in the family roles, people would tell her what to do. And she struggled with assertiveness. I don't know that we haven't seen enough of her behavior to know, but just go with me on this. Let's just live in a world where Kalani actually has a role in the family where she is more the dependent one, more the under-functioning one, which is kind of interesting given that in the relationship with Asuelu, she's definitely the over-functioning one. But maybe in her family, she's more under-functioning. She is more of the reserved one, more of the listener, more of the follower. Nothing wrong with that, but it might have got under her skin a little bit where she became more dependent. And what happens is that the schemas develop in a child as they are in that role where they believe they're not competent. They believe they can't make decisions on their own. And they don't even necessarily know what they want. And even if they know what they want, they don't feel confident in asserting those wants. And what can happen sometimes is that people will do a lot of different things to get out of making a choice. So I don't know if this is what's happening right now, but this is total speculation, as I always say. For Kalani, it's possible, I don't know, that she has this schema of incompetence and dependency, that she needs other people to tell her what to do. And she can't do things on her own. And she might even not really be in strong connection with what she wants. She knows enough about her relationship with Asuelu to know that something is really wrong, and she doesn't feel good in it. And there's something down there in terms of who she is that is telling her, you need to leave this person, or something's got to change. You need to make a change. But she doesn't have a strong connection with that. And even if she did, she's like, well, but what do I do about it? I don't know what to do. And then Asuelu is there saying, hey, if we buy a house, things will be better. And so for a long time, so two things, as I've been saying before, she might not have ever even wanted to marry him. So for dependent people, for people who have schemas of incompetence and this idea that they need other people to tell them what to do because of the way they were socialized when they were growing up, the way they were treated, they sometimes will get in relationships without ever really knowing if they want to be in the relationship because the other person is dictating for them. The other person is saying, I'm in love with you. Let's move in together. Let's get married. Let's have kids. And at no point does the person even stop to think, is this what I want? Because they're used to deferring to someone else. They're used to asking other people, what should I do? And the other person will say, you need to do this. And what that can cause a lot of problems in is if you're not in connection with who you are and what you want, then you're just living a lie. But if you're not in connection with what you want, you don't even know if you're living a lie or not. Anyway, I'm sort of rambling, but it's possible that Kalani, from the very beginning, if she does have a streak of I wouldn't say she was very high on the dependency spectrum, but let's say if she was, it would be mild to moderate. It's possible that she never really wanted to be married to him in the first place, but she agreed to it, and it was kind of good sometimes. And then when it came time to actually leave him and saying, I gave it a shot, she doesn't have the inner resources to even check in with herself or to advocate for herself and say, I don't want to be in this relationship, and stand on her own two feet, because no one else can make that choice for you. And one of the indicators of this dependency in her family is particularly her sister will really talk down to her sometimes. Not tremendously, not in an abusive way, but the sister or let me put it this way, the sister seems like she feels responsible for Kalani's life. For example, in my family, my older sister, if she were going through something like this, I don't feel my sister was responsible for me because she was like my other mom growing up. And so in my family, I didn't have that role with my sister. And so if my sister was having some kind of situation like Kalani was, I would say, well, do you want any help with that? I wouldn't force my opinion on the situation. Kalani will often, I'm not going to say force, but she often offers her opinion and will be very straightforward and say, I don't think you should be with him, essentially is what she's saying. So that could indicate a little bit of that dynamic within the family where Kalani was more of the one that people told what to do, and Kalani felt comfortable in that position where people were telling her what to do. Now that she's an adult, she doesn't have those people telling her what to do anymore, or she's trying to live her life. So even going down this road even further, and again, this is really just shooting in the dark, is Kalani might have even got married to Asuelu in the first place because she was trying to assert her own personality. She was trying to say, this is who I am. My parents and my sister, they don't want me to do this, but I'm going to do it because I need something to say that I did for myself. Again, I'm completely speculating. But the reason why I watch this show is because I can use it as a jumping off point to talk about general personality and psychotherapy things, and maybe y'all can learn from it and use it in your own therapy with your own therapist. But anyway, so where was I? Yeah, so buying the house could be a way for Kalani to avoid facing a decision that she's not quite sure she knows what to do, or avoid making a big move to divorce him because she's not used to making decisions on her own in this way. I don't know. It's completely speculative. Let's keep that in mind, though, as we keep watching.
Divorce has been on the table a lot in the past, and I've talked about it in depth with my sister. But every time I decided to give Asuelu another chance, it went bad. So I can't really blame her for thinking that I'm just giving Asuelu another pass and in a couple of weeks have divorce back on the table again.
I don't know.
So that's certainly not a good sign that Kalani is saying, I have been talking about getting divorced for a long time with Kalani. It doesn't bode well for their relationship because if you're talking about divorce a lot, that usually means it's in your future. Now, it doesn't always mean that. I've helped couples where they have talked about divorce a lot. I've helped them to improve their relationship for sure. Maybe they'll go back to therapy with Matt Eschler, I think his name was, and maybe they can pull it back from the brink. The other thing is there's nothing wrong with divorce. Divorce happens. It's okay. You can do it amicably. They could co-parent their kids, and everything would be fine. So it's not a disaster if they get divorced, for sure. The other thing is that I often will say is that when you're married, and particularly when you have kids, the time span from I think I'm going to get divorced to actually getting divorced is usually quite long. I've worked with clients for years where they say one day, yes, absolutely, 100%, I need to leave my partner. It's over. I've explored all the avenues. I haven't been in love with this person for a long time. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know, I'm 100% sure I want to leave this person. Oftentimes, from the time they say that, it will be years before they actually even tell their partner that they want a divorce. It's hard. There's so many reasons to stay, and it's so inconvenient to get divorced. It's so hard to get divorced. There's a lot of pain, emotional pain, and financial problems, and logistical problems, and guilt problems. Like you don't want to have to hurt someone else's feelings, and so it usually can take a long time. So it's not unusual for someone to be in that space like Kalani is for a long time. But it does make me sad for the whole family that the marriage is so bad that Kalani has been thinking about divorce for a long time. All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.